Hello there, welcome to the channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about Nigeria's best 11, you know, from the end of the season. So basically what we're looking to do is, since the major leagues are gradually coming to an end, we'll be looking at the best performers, this season and trying to fit them into a starting 11. And we go with a 4-4-2. So obviously, I want to know what you think. Who do you think should be in this 11? Who are the Nigerian players you think have performed the best this season? Which players would you be considering? Would you want to be in the team? And do you have any other honorable mentions? So for me, and the formation I'll be going with today is a 4-4-2. So let's start from let's start from the top. We'll start from the striking position. So first off, I will go. All right, let's start from the back. So at right back, I will go with Ola Aina because I think he has been the best performing, right back for the Nigerian Super Eagles, and for Nottingham Forest. He's been the best performing right back, So you can see his performances for Nottingham Forest, defensively, offensively, creating goals, defending as well, and even when he's played for the Nigerian Super Eagles, he's played very, very well. Although Eric Chell, for whatever reason, decided to play him, at left back in the World Cup qualifiers, but he has been one constant under Guavon. He has been very, very good. And then for Nuno Espirito, for Nottingham Forest, he's also been excellent. And this season, I would say he is the best right back in the world. Don't get me started on Alexander Arnold or Rhys James. For this particular season, he is the best right back in the world. So we'll have him there at right back. And then we'll go to the central defensive pairing. And then I would go with Igor Ogbu. Igor Ogbu, I know he hasn't played that much for the for Nigeria, for Nigeria Super Eagles, but he's played in the Czech League, and his team were the champions of the league. So champion spirit, champion mentality, and he plays aggressively. And I've been impressed with him this season. So for me, he goes in there. Now I'd like to know other people you think could have taken that up that spot. If I missed out on someone else, let's know. And then we go on to the second centre back position. I will go with William Ekong. I know he plays in the Saudi Pro League, but I think he's Nigeria's captain. He's been very, very good this season for Nigeria when he's got to play. Apart from that mistake he made, for the goal against Zimbabwe in New York. But also we have to talk about other players that can make it into this team. Now, for me, Tosa Bayo is one of them, but I haven't put him in this list. I haven't put him in this squad because though he's eligible to play for Nigeria, having Nigerian and English citizenship, he hasn't yet. This nationality switch hasn't yet been confirmed. We don't know how far that is coming along, so he can be, in this list. So you have Alexander Makandeli as well, that can be eligible to play for Nigeria via his mother, but he's still that nationality switch hasn't been done yet. We don't even know if it's going to happen, So he stays out because of that. And then we'll have Bari as well, another centre back. He plays, in Scandinavian League as well. He's very, very good so far in the Scandinavian League. But for me, I don't think he makes it into this team yet because he hasn't quite done enough, in my opinion. So if there are other names you think would have taken up that spot apart from just Ekong, then let me also know. Then we go to the left back position. So for me, I'll go with Bruno Yemachi. Bruno Yemachi for me has been Nigeria's best left back this season. When I mean Nigeria's best left back, I mean the left back that is eligible to play for Nigeria and is indeed playing for Nigeria. So if you're a dual national, you haven't yet confirmed your switch to Nigeria yet, you don't come into this list. So Bruno Yemachi is a champion as well with Olympiacos. And remember, I said this while he was, making the move to Olympiacos. I said it that he, is a top player, and going to Olympiacos was good for him because it's a club that will all be competing for Champions League spots, and it's a club that can also win the league in Greece. It's one thing you play for a club in Portugal that got relegated before I left. You play in a club for Portugal, you can say, oh yeah, I play in Portugal, but they don't win anything. It serves you, it doesn't serve you well. But when you go to a club that can win and you indeed win, that winning mentality, that winning spirit translates, you know, into the national team when you come to play for a national team. So he was very instrumental to the victory of Olympiacos, the rest of the win the Greek league, and he has been very, very good for Nigeria as well when he's had a chance to play. And I want to speak to Eric Chill. I don't know if he ever, watches the channel, but Bruno Yemachi cannot be on the bench. You cannot bench Bruno Yemachi. Even if there are other options that come up, maybe Adaramola, and Felix Agu, if they indeed confirm nationality switches and play for Nigeria, you still shouldn't be thinking about benching Bruno Yemachi because he's been fantastic. You want to play an attacking brand of football, then Bruno Yemachi must be in that team. I know some people might be saying, if a coach wants to play defensively. Now, if a coach wants to play an ultra defensive style of play, which I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will complain about, then okay, you can keep him out of it. But if you want to say you play attacking football, adventurous football, then you should have Bruno Yemachi in that team. Now, going back to the centre back position, I want to mention one honourable mention, a player that could have been in there, and that's Vince Osuji. Vince Osuji, he left FF Kalmar, and joined Club Bruges. But for me, I think he still has a lot to do to make it into this team. But I think if we're talking about a squad, because we're talking about a starting 11, if we're talking about a full squad, then maybe he makes it into that squad. If we're talking about like a 26-man squad, then you could have Vince Osuji in that squad. But for this starting 11, for this team, I don't think he makes it into this team. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. So whilst you're here, please, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel. Share the video to people you feel who love content such as this. And remember, I say I'm going with the 4-4-2. And then for the goalkeeping position, I would be a bit controversial now. I know the number one for Nigeria is Stanley Wabali, 100%. If we're picking an actual team going out to play right now, Stanley Wabali will be the number one. But I just want to give a recognition to Arthur Okonkwo. He's been very, very good, for Wrexham, helping them gain promotion to, the championship, which is a second tier of English football. And he's kept 18 clean sheets, along the way. So that's absolutely phenomenal in anyone's record. So for me, I see that as a reason to have him as the number one in this team. So for me, he goes in there, Arthur Okonkwo. Then we move into the midfield. Now, for midfield, that two-man midfield, there are lots of names that come to mind. My favorite, if you've been watching this channel, my favorite Nigerian player overall at the minute, there's some midfielders, Ebenezer Akintimiro, just because of what he brings to the team in terms of how he can help control play. But unfortunately, he doesn't make it into this team. At the minute, there are youngsters like Victor Eletu. They don't make it into this team at the minute. And then you have also, like Victor Eletu, you have Ebenezer Akintimiro. They don't make it into this team. And there are other names as well. I think you can mention as players that are knocking right on the door. But for me, in terms of what they've done this season for their clubs, I don't think they quite have done enough to make it into the team. And then so for me, I'll be going with Club Bruges, Raf Onyedika, and Crisantos Uche. Uche Crisantos has scored the winning goal for Getafe, his Spanish club, this past weekend. So he's been very, very good. And someone that I've always said should be in this Nigerian Super Eagles setup. So for me, he is someone that should be in this team 100%. So I'm talking about how these players have performed coming into as we come towards the end of the season. Then we will then go to the left wing, the left wing position, and who do we have? For me, I would have Simon Moses, right wing. I have Simon Moses on the right wing because I think he has, he broke the assist record in France. So that's what you want from a winger. You want, apart from the pace, the direct running, you will also want the ability to create goals, the ability to create opportunities for themselves and teammates. So when you have a player like him, coming up with so much assists as to break the assist record, then you must have him in any sort of end of season team you're putting together for the Nigerian Super Eagles. I know there's Samuel Chukwueze, but he's been injured off and on. And I know I've always talked about Noah Sternberg, but me, though he's an exciting player, it doesn't change the fact that he's an exciting player and a very talented player. But I just think that since he hasn't confirmed any nationality switch to Nigeria, then he can make it into this list. And then we can go on to someone like Yubuchi Obasi. Yubuchi Obasi, exciting talent. You know how to talk about the player often on here, but at this minute, he hasn't quite done enough to be in this team. So he hasn't quite done enough to be in this team. So then you talk about again, and then you can also talk about like of Shola Ogundono. Shola Ogundono, fantastic player, played on the 20s for the under 20 Flamingo side in Brazil. I think he won, the hero of the year, that they have sort of the player of the year for the under 20 side. And some Flamingo fans have been saying that he could possibly, make it into the first team next season. An exciting talent and someone I'm looking forward to having in Nigeria Super Eagles. But at this minute, I don't see him as someone, that should make it quite into this team. So that's it. So we have Simon Moses on the right wing, and then we gradually moving towards the attack. So in the attack, center forward position, there's just one name that comes to mind that must be the number one, and that is Victor James Osimhen. Seeing what he done for Galatasaray, helped them win two trophies, the league title and the Turkish league as well, and he helped them go far in the Europa League tournament as well. But they lost out, unfortunately. And we've seen what he's done for Nigeria as well. In 2 games, he scored 3 goals. So he's someone definitely that should be on any list, in any sort of team you want to talk about. You're talking about end of season team for Nigeria. You must have Victor Osimhen in there. He scored in 29 matches, in the Super League, in the Turkish Super League, he scored 25 goals, 5 assists. That's 30 goals, 30 goal contributions rather. And then in the Turkish Cup, he scored 5 goals. So when you add 5 goals to that, that brings it to 30 goals. So 35 goal contributions, 35 goal contributions. And then when you add the 6 goals he scored, in Europa League, that brings it up to I think 41 or 42 goal contributions so far this season for Victor James Osimhen. So he walks into this team 100%. There's no argument about that. I know you can have some honorable mentions like your Victor Boniface. I don't think he's been that great this season, but I think he's been okay. He definitely is the squad. He will be in it. And definitely for the next World Cup qualifying round, you definitely want to see Victor Boniface as well. And there's other honorable mentions like George Lenny Kenna, still finding his way out to Monaco. It's another name that you should the NFL should look at, have a conversation about him. There's Victor Latunji as well, another striking talent, in the Czech league. And then you have Samuel Morojan. Samuel Morojan, he's been very, very good for Porto. He's got tons and tons of goals for them. But the issue is he hasn't, he looks like he's going to be playing for Spain because he's played a couple of games for them and he's always been included in their national team setup, and they've always been inviting him, and he has been, honoring those invites. So just like someone like Noni Madueke, Noni Madueke is still eligible to play for Nigeria just by a slim chance, but he's been invited to the English national team setup, and he has been playing. He has played a couple of games, I think, in the UEFA League. He has played some games for them, and definitely the way it's looking with the way Thomas Tuchel is running things in England, he definitely will get that final couple of caps. I'll see him tied to England. So Madueke is gone. So I think the same thing applies, to Samuel Moridian. Though I would like him to play for Nigeria, but the way it seems right now, seems his head, his faith, his head, his mind, his heart is focused on Spain. So that's another one that's gone. Honorable mention. And then we have to talk about the Ebony Shoe winner in the Belgian league. I think for me, he is the one that would be, the second striker in this 4-4-2 setup, and that is Tolu Arokodare. Tolu Arokodare. Kutula Rokodare for me will be the next player on this list. So let's just bring up his stats. He scored goals, double figures, and then we've been hearing rumors about him, coming to the English Premier League. Let's see how that goes. But in 39 games, he scored 21 goals, 5 assists. In the Belgian Pro League with 21 goals, 5 assists. That's 26 goal contributions. So that means he's been someone who's been on fire in that league, and his hard work or his sort of contribution to his team winning in the Belgian league hasn't gone unnoticed, because you have several clubs who have been linked to his services. Like you had links to West Ham, you have links to Dortmund, you have links to Bayern as well. For me, I've said, with respect to moving to a club like Bayern, you have to be very, very careful, because they play with one out-and-out striker, and that's Harry Kane. And do you think Vincent Kompany is going to bench Harry Kane for you? Not quite sure. I think rather than going to Bayern Munich, maybe he goes to Dortmund if Guirassy will be sold, because I think Guirassy has performed very, very well at Dortmund and possibly could be sold. So if that happens, then I think that's the place you can go to. And West Ham as well. If you're to go to West Ham, you must make sure that you are the out-and-out choice that that will be picked as the number one striker. So, but he's been fantastic. So I think he will be the second striker in this setup. So this is a 4-4-2 formation that I will go with. And then I think I've missed out. There's a place I've missed out. Yeah. And then we're talking about the left wing, none other than Ademola, Lookman. Speaking about Ademola Lookman, I think he's set to leave Atalanta come the end of this season. We have all the talk with him and his coach, but more importantly, I think his contract just has 1 year left on it, coming towards the end of the season. And I think he will be a good pickup for a lot of Premier League sides. Maybe Arsenal's, maybe even in Chelsea as well. Because you look at Chelsea, who did they actually have in that left wing spot? Nobody really. Look at Liverpool as well. Who do they really have that's really contributing sort of numbers that and Ademola Lookman is contributing at the minute? I don't think you have that many people who who are coming up with such numbers. I think someone that would work in the Premier League, and then we also had that possibly Juventus could be interested in his services as well. Now, for me, if I'm a player, I will be very, very skeptical about heading to Juventus, because right now you have all the pressure of playing for Juventus, but I don't think they're properly set up at this minute to actually, compete for the title in Italy. So if you go to Juventus, you have that pressure of, you have to win the league title, you have to perform at this club, which is normal for a big club like Juventus, but then you don't have the surrounding supporting cast, in my opinion. So I don't think Juventus would be a good move for him. So that's the 4-4-2 formation I've gone with, and that is for me Nigeria's best starting 11 by this end of the season. This end of season 11. So what I'm going with in the 4-4-2 formation. Now, who would you think should be off this list, if there's any, or who do you think should be on this list? So now the person I want to mention, he definitely isn't ready to be on this list, but he's related to someone on this, at least allegedly, or those are according to what the report is saying, that Hazim Bakri, according to Ademola Lookman, signed for Middlesbrough. He's a nice talent, young player. Let's see what he's able to prove at Middlesbrough. By the minute, I don't think he can, move into this team. And there are other players that you have to look at as well, that if you have nationalities, which is happening, then they can, have a shout, in this team. And maybe if you also have players being promoted as well, but with the way the under 20 AFCON has gone, I don't think there's anybody there that you want to have, in this team, in my humble opinion. So maybe your Justin Jima can be someone that can be part of this team. Who knows? But you have to have the nationalities, which is done before I bring you into this team. Because for me, players who are in the squad are players that can actually, play for Nigeria at the minute. And then looking at the goalkeeping position, I know I've talked about Ato Okonkwo. For me, he is one I think can do a good job. He's kept a clean sheet. I think he's done his own nationality switch. So it's left for the NFF to do what they have to do. I would have gone with a Nua Atubulu, but he's still playing for the under 20s also for Germany and hasn't really um, come out to say he wants to play for Nigeria. We haven't heard anything about nationality switch or anything like that. So he stays out of the team. And Stanley Wabali, I think, is coming to a point when he has to leave the South African League. I just think so. He's coming to the point where he has to show more ambition and move out to at least one of the top five leagues in Europe. Now, I know I've always said every country can develop their league. Every country has the right to make their league good and can be as competitive. But at this minute, Europe, that's where the action is. Until Africa and South America decide to catch up, then then you can then say, okay, those leagues then count. So if you just join in, welcome to the channel. We're talking about the you know best 11 for Nigerian Super Eagles eligible players. Based on how they perform for their various clubs. You know, and they were putting them into a squad, putting them into a hypothetical squad. It's not an jail release squad. It's not the squad for it's not a team rather for the Unity Cup, but it's just a team on the Football channel. So I'll take my list again. I've gone with Ato Okonkwo in the goalkeeping position. I've gone with Ola Aina at right back. I've gone with Igo Ogbu, in central defense alongside Chus Ekong. And I've also gone with Bruno Yemachi at left back. And then I've gone with two-man pairing in the midfield, obviously 4-4-2. So that's Uche Crisantos and, you know, and Rafael Onyedika. So those are the two midfield partners that can be a double pivot. Then for the right wing, I've gone with Simon Moses because he's the assist leader in France. I think if he brings that into the team, that can be a lot of goals to be scored by the likes of Victor Osimhen. So, and then for the two attacking positions, I've gone with Victor Osimhen, and I've also gone with Tolu Arokodare, and I've also acknowledged, the likes of Victor Latunji, Victor Boniface. Well, especially Victor Boniface had an okay season, but I don't think he's been at his absolute best this season. So I think if we're talking about a squad, he definitely would make it into that squad. But for the best team this season, I don't think he quite makes it into the team. And then for the left wing position, we've talked about Ademola Lookman, African Footballer of the Year, still reigning African Footballer of the Year. And I think he makes it into this team 100%. So, and then that begs the question: who are the other options apart from these ones we've mentioned? That can come in and do something in the team. Now that's where we have to look at the AFCON on the 20 AFCON because that's where you're meant to have the next set of people that should be heading into the Nigerian Super Eagles. But unfortunately, this team, that played against what's it called, South Africa, that played against Egypt this past weekend on Sunday to precise. Not quite. You don't have players that you can point to say, yeah, this player can actually cut it in here. And Reddy Korabo, I think, was okay, but I think the way the team was set up didn't quite allow him to express himself fully. And I still needed to see more from, Chuku, the player that was signed by Hoffenheim. I still needed to see more from him in the game, so I can't quite say that he makes it into the Super Eagles. Bamiyi, people are raving about him, but for me, I still need to see more, from him. And then Onyebuchi Obasi, wasn't invited to the team, so it's difficult to make a call. But I think it's another player that should be looked out for, that should be 100% be looked out for, going forward. So for me, this is a team I'm going with. What team would you like to see? What player do you think perform the best this season and should make it into a starting level for an end of season Nigerian Super Eagles team. Who do you think should be on this list? I mean, I've given mine, and that's it. So honorable mentions in defense. There's Vince Osuji, but he still needs to do more. There's Alessandro Makandeli. For him, he needs to make the nationality switch. Though we had reports that he said he's torn between playing for Italy and playing for Nigeria. But come on, man, you have to make a decision. You have to decide. Time don't reach, for you to decide where you want to play. So you just can't be jumping between two countries. Pick where you want to play. And then we've talked about Felix Agu. Felix Agu, for me, I think would be a very, very good addition in that left back spot. Not to take over for Bruno Yimachi in a minute, but to battle, have a competition, have a competition for the slot, especially if Eric Chell is going with his inverted fullback business. Then that means maybe Felix Agu could have the upper hand against Bruno Yimachi. But if it's pure attacking talent from that left back spot, I think Bruno Yimachi is the better player. He's slightly, I wouldn't say better player, but slightly, ahead of him and can more than hold his own, against him. And then in the middle of the park, other names to mention, I'm talking about Benizek against Miroba. I think he still needs to do a little more to make it into this particular team, especially if you're going with a two-man midfield. So that's why I decided to go with Onyedika and decided to go with Onyedika and Uche Santos because Uche Santos has been in fantastic form. I don't know why he hasn't been invited yet, but you can see in this team that's the players I'm going for. So let me know who do you think should be in this team. And of course, I forgot one name, Cyril Desas. He's been on absolute fire this season. I think he doesn't quite make it into the team, but if we're talking about a squad of players who are looking at 4-5 strikers, then definitely you have him in there. So you have the likes of maybe Victor Osimhen and Okodare as number one and number two. Then you have your Boniface and your Cyril Desas as the second choice strikers. And then some people might want to talk about Terry Murphy. Terry Murphy, he scored in the last game, but he's been out injured for quite a bit, unfortunately. So I don't think he quite makes it into this team. He needs a lot of time to, recover and get back to full match fitness. So I don't think he scored that many goals this season because obviously he was injured. And similarly as well, Akko Adams made a move and got some injuries here and there. So I don't think he quite makes it into this team. And then as well, for the wingers, there is an honorable mention. He is a teammate of Akko Adams, and that's Ejike Chidera Ejike. We know his brilliance, very skillful on the ball, pacey and all that. But with respect to the best players that can go into the Nigerian Super Eagles team, it's starting 11. I don't think he's quite done enough. Another one is Nathan Teller. Nathan Teller has been okay for Bayer Leverkusen, but he's had this niggling injury that always seems to rear its head each time he wants to be invited, for the Nigerian Super Eagles team. And overall, I think that's impeded his progression this season for Bayer Leverkusen. So for that reason, he doesn't quite make it into this team. And of course, when we talk about that left back position, I've talked about Alex Agu, I've talked about Bruno Yimachi. You have the likes of Somto Boniface. Somto Boniface is still a very young player, plays for Ipswich Town, and his own issue is he has to decide first off if he wants to play for Nigeria or not. And then if he decides that he wants to play for Nigeria, then you have the issue of nationality switch, which he would have to do. So that's my team. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the chat. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel and share this video to people you feel would enjoy content such as this. So with that being said, I think that's all. We've come to the end of this video. Thank you for all those who supported this channel. You keep subscribing, you keep being loyal, and you watch the videos, you subscribe, you share the videos. That's really, really amazing. I'm really grateful. And so at this point, I've come to the end of the video. I'd like to do a fantastic rest of your day.